Hello, good morning. Good morning. Okay. Okay, let's start. Okay. My name is Eduardo Brandão. I'm from Sonai. I work on our IT unit in Sonai. And I'm here to talk to you about how IoT can draw a business value on retail. Okay? So our session will be divided on first, what is IoT, some facts and myths about IoT, also what is our reference architecture that we have built on Sonai to implement IoT projects, and then, which is the main purpose of this session, is how can this technology bring value to the retail, not only the retail, but overall in all industries. So, and then I'll end up with some additional challenges of the 3 ones that we have launched in Sonai that you are free to propose as solutions. Okay, so let's talk about a bit what is IoT. So there are many definitions of IoT. A simple one is a set of devices that capture data and inject this data into a platform in order to take actions. Okay, so if we just pick data and we don't do anything about it, there is no IoT project. So the main purpose of an IoT project is to draw conclusions and actionable data. Okay, so how did we get here? So in Sonai, a couple of years ago, typically we studied trends. We have analyzed many trends. One of those was IoT. And at this stage, the main point was to discover if there was any added value to our retail industry. So we have concluded that yes, and we have built an internal group to study additional use cases in order to take advantage of these technologies. So one, which is a quite simple one, is typically our garbage is picked up as here, regardless of it is empty or full. So this can be applied to municipalities, to retail, to many other areas where there is a possibility to be much more efficient on this. So if you can change the routes of the garbage collection based on the level of fullness of this garbage collector, will be much more efficient on that. So there will be a significant reduction of cost if we can be much more intelligent on the picking of the garbage. Okay, this can be applied to municipalities. This can be applied to retail. Okay. Then some myth and truths about IoT. So it's something of the present. Okay, for sure. There are many projects on this. Many of those are on the industry, on manufacturing, monitoring manufacturing processes, the engines, the temperature of the fridges. So there are some projects on this. So then it's just about sensors or big data? No, it's not. It's much more about this. So if we do not have a purpose for this massive data that we are collecting, there is no purpose. Okay? So we really need to be focused about what is the end goal. Okay? Do not go for an IoT project from the technology side. This is the main takeaway of this session, and I hope that you are able to, after this session, always have a purpose for the technology. Okay? So typically the devices are connected through Wi-Fi or some type of radio frequency communication, but no, this can be also connected to based on cabling if we want to. So all data is good data? No, not at all. So if you are capturing temperature from a fridge, and if the fridge has a normal temperature, we do not have to capture this data. So we should filter data as soon as possible. Okay? So if we have intelligence on the edge side, it's much more efficient rather than processing it on a cloud IoT service. So this is one of the main topics here. Always think about security, okay? We'll have later on a slide on this. It's quite interesting. We will not go into the video, but I'll challenge you to go and see on YouTube this video, which is a quite interesting one, okay? No, devices do not need to work together. Depends on if they make sense or not. There are some IoT standards also. And is it easy to deliver an IoT project? Depends on what you want to do. Typically, you really need to understand many things, from the electronic side to the programming side, and also to analytics side. So there is a learning curve that you need to really to take actions, okay? And stressing this point, think about business value, okay? Then, what are we doing in Sonai? So, speeding up a bit. So, 4 main pillars: things, connectivity, platform, and then analyze the data visually or not visually, and then take actions, okay? This is 4 main topics, okay? So, what are we doing in Sonai in terms of components? So, we have sensors with more or less intelligence. We might or not, depending on the project, it makes sense or not, have a gateway to aggregate data, to filter data, to add additional information on that, and then ingest this data into a cloud platform. We did some 2-3 days workshops with Azure and AWS back 2 years ago in order to decide for one platform. And on that, what we did was to take some Raspberry Pis and do some capturing the data, processing the data, understanding what is the learning curve for each platform, and based on that, we have taken the decision to go for one specific platform, and all the projects that have been delivered were based on that platform and will be based on that platform. What we did also is to create some templates in order to create some baseline and help people that want to develop on IoT in order to have naming conventions, all the components that are needed. So there are templates for the small IoT hub, small stream analytics, small data lake, and if you need to grow up, we can scale up, and if you need to start from a middle size or a large size implementation, there are also templates for that, okay? So basically, this is the main reference architecture. Then going a bit on the starting point, what we have, so you have sensors. One thing you really need to take close attention is which type of sensor do you need, okay? What is the accuracy that you need? How stable it is on the environment, okay? What is the resolution? What is the range? How quick can it capture data and send the data? So this starts from the sensors to the platform and back to an actuator, for instance. But if you really do not choose at start the right sensor, everything else after will not have enough quality to proceed, okay? So even though you might choose the right sensor, you might mess up afterwards, okay? So please start thinking about all these characteristics that the sensors might have or should have for your project, okay? If you really need to monitor the temperature of the fridge, look into these criteria and see which makes sense or not, okay? For instance, environment stability is very important for monitoring fridges, okay? Then, once you need to deploy a large installation, you need to make it easy. So how can you do a batch import of devices? How can you ensure that all the devices are registered on the IoT hub easily in order to have a very easy deployment on a large scale, okay? You need to understand that. And then, if you have an installation that is quite spread geographically, you need also to have self-healing methods in order to avoid having some logistics and travel time in order to solve problems with sensors that are very far away, okay? Also, on the management side, you need to be able to monitor the devices, know where they are, and this is a tricky thing. We also have in Sonai some assets that and we'll see a use case on that we do not know where they are. They disappear, literally. And so you really need to pay attention on if you are able to capture the location, and also power concerns, okay? Typically, these type of sensors are based on batteries, so pay a close attention to the battery lifetime and how easy is it to replace, and how easy it is to monitor that battery in order to do that intervention, that battery change prior to be drained, okay? So this is on devices and on the actuators, so sensors and actuators on the left side. Then you have two options in terms of deployment. You have the deployment where you have things, devices, sensors that are more intelligent, but they do require more power, okay? And they are typically more expensive. So you have two approaches. You can start from the left side with non-aggregated deployment, where you have Raspberry Pis, for instance, which is quite easy to develop on, but then they are quite expensive on a large scale. So you need to have the most cheap sensor on the edge side that can give you the information that you need, okay? So if you go on the left side, it's quite easy to develop, but you have scalability problems afterwards in terms of investment, typically. If you have sensors that are less intelligent, more friendly in terms of battery life, you'll go into the second part of deployment that is possible. So you have an aggregation afterwards that do not have battery problems, and they are able to capture, to filter, to aggregate additional data. And this second option to deployment is more based on a large implementation. So there are some things that you need to consider. So if you go on the left side, it's easy to deploy on a small footprint, but once you need to roll out on a large scale, you'll have problems on the business case side. Always focus on business case side. Connectivity, won't go into this. Anyway, it's always outdated, so even now it's outdated. There is no 5G here, so there are a lot of options. I'll share with you, we did a pilot, a consumer product pilot, where we have opted for, thought about the use cases, and we have drawn conclusions that, okay, we should rely on only Wi-Fi for this, and we did the pilot, and then after the pilot, which was a successful pilot, we thought, well, there is 1, 2, or 3, 4 use cases additionally, which is the right connectivity to put on top of this Wi-Fi in order to give access where Wi-Fi is not available. So depending on the use case, you should expect that one communication technology is more suitable than others, okay? And you can build upon, okay? You don't have to opt for one only, you can add additional ones, okay? So depends on a bit on the use case again. So devices, communication, processing. So typically platforms, 15 minutes. Platforms, they have, let's say, a hub and an entry point, then the data is processed, and then it's analyzed internally in the IoT platform, or again, on external analytics tools. So one thing I'd like to share with you after this path that we have gone into is please do not develop an IoT platform, okay? It's easy to use components that are always updated. They are not expensive at all. So for you to have an idea, an IoT hub for Microsoft, it's not my sponsor, it costs less than 25 euros per month for 400K messages. Okay, it's a lot for you to use, okay? Do not develop this. You will be always outdated. Okay, so now the hard part, which can be tricky, it does not work. So I'll try to do here is, we have simulated devices. Let's imagine a sensor. It will ingest wind speed data into IoT hub, okay? The hub is responsible for knowing all the devices that are connected to, and is responsible also to then send all this data into some additional component, which is, in this case, a stream analytics. Stream analytics is like, imagine like it's like a pipe of information that captures this flow of information, and okay, this information is good for analytics, information is good for acting, and send some command back to an actuator in order to, let's put more temperature or less temperature on the air conditioning, okay? So this is what I'll try to do, and also to show you a Power BI dashboard with this data that is being collected or simulated now, okay? Let's see if it works. Okay. So, command line. So this is simulating a sensor that is capturing wind speed. Let's imagine a wind turbine that is capturing the wind speed. So this is injecting the data, as we speak, into IoT hub, okay? It's sending the data there. Let's try to show you the dashboard of the IoT hub. So that's me. Okay. Okay. So the data comes here. It's logged off, I think. So the data will go into the IoT hub. The IoT hub, I will show you the devices that are connected to. Okay. So these simulated devices, here's here, okay, as you can see. So when you think about security, you'll have to manage device keys. So the device that is being simulated here is using those keys. So there are always one primary key and one additional key. That is the key that the device will use to connect to the IoT hub. So on a larger deployment, you have to be able to deploy all these keys to the devices, so that it's quite easy to do the installation. So IoT hub. So this IoT hub will receive the data from the sensors. Then this will go on into that pipe that I was mentioning. So this pipe, what will it do? So it will do three things. So one thing is to put into a Power BI. Okay, you can see that it will capture the data. It will be doing some aggregation on this, and we will send the data to a Power BI. We'll see just in a second. It will also deploy this data into a data lake store, and also have a tumbling window on that for a notification engine. So what this will do is, it will go into a function, and this function will send the data back to an actuator to increase the turbine speed, stop it, increase the speed of an engine, or stop it, or a fridge, or something else, okay? Then, here you can see where the data is being deployed. Quite easy. So the data that is being captured is here. Okay? All the wind speed is here. And also, okay, I want to take action. So here you can see on the analytics side, our Power BI can capture this data and have, let's say, a dashboard, a monitoring dashboard of the data that is being captured. Okay? Then Okay, this is like, let's say, an actuator, so something that is on the thing side that will receive the data and do something. This can, now I'm just going back and send the wind speed again to the actuator, but this can be a command to stop an engine or do something else. Okay. Just to share with you a live example of what can be a deployment. Okay. Back to the presentation. Okay. So, things, data, insights, actions, and outcomes. So outcome is the most important thing here. I really want you to think on the use case. So one of the things that have changed recently on the retail is the Amazon Go approach, which is also depending on some sensors that exist on shelves. So it is partially a store that depends on IoT sensors that will complement the data, the visual analytics data, to have additional confidence that the client has taken this type of product. So this recent change or move from Amazon Go has put some retailers also as quite interesting on this technology because they are able to deploy much more efficient stores, okay? Typically small ones. Okay, so things that might be interesting for retail. So reaction, location is very important. I'll share with you some on that, some use cases on that. Posture, light temperature, it's quite important. Equipment temperature, this is some of the insights that we really need to capture on retail. How can we do this? A lot of sensors that are available. Then you need to also think, should I capture this data always? Should I retain this data for a large period, or it is just important for that moment? So depending on your use case, you need to see, well, I should capture this on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, real time or not. Should I keep an history, a legacy data on this? Depending on the use case, you should consider these options, okay? Then I'll jump into some slides. So these are some implementations that we did. Prior to the implementation of the IoT platform that we are using now, so some location-based services on electronics, so understanding the pattern, the move, the flow of the clients by gender, by age. So we did this on electronics. We also have deployed largely our RFID project. We also have, on our sports division, we have also implemented a solution to track mobile devices anonymously and to be able to capture the flow of the clients on the stores in order to change store layouts or try to change some front of the store to bring more people to the store. So understanding the flow of the clients is very important on retail. Then you need to also to take care of privacy and compliance. I won't go into this, let's say, broader matter. I just recommend you to see a video. So on Web Summit this year, Gary Kasparov was presenting a less smart home session, and you'll be able to see on YouTube. It's quite interesting. So sometimes we think that we have a very smart home, or a very smart implementation of IoT, and based just on a single point of failure that we might have not thought about it enough, we have compromised all the, let's say in this case, a smart home. And if you look into the video, you'll see you will be able to enter based on a webcam or a Nest or an Alexa on a simple way, and then after that he controls the whole house. So it's quite interesting video for you to see. So on retail, what can be interesting? So, as we have carts and trolleys, one thing we can do, we can put sensors, and we are putting sensors not on clients, we are putting sensors on things. So, on the compliance, we are okay. We are not tracking people, we are tracking carts and trolleys. And based on that, and on a grid of that is capturing all this data, we are able to capture the flow. We are able to capture the temperature. These are some of the use cases that we have also. And based on that, we can do some things. Okay? For instance, what you can do, you can see the heat maps, which are the areas that are more used in order to change layouts. You might want to stress out or stress less some parts of the stores, and you can induct a path of the clients for that zones. You can put some blockages. We have seen this on IKEA, for instance. Some of the vendors have presented us some use cases where you all know how IKEA works, so there is an induced path for people to go into the complete store, so they are able to monitor also this path and change the layouts and put some blockages in order to infect those paths and increase always the conversion rate. So in retail, in food and grocery retail, we can do the same, but we need data for that. So we need to capture how the client moves in the store in order to do some A/B testing on this. So if you really are able to capture if the client is moving on these aisles, on this direction, on the opposite direction, as we have, for instance, revenue from manufacturers, producers. So if you are able to prove that we have this type of flow, and if we change the promotions from one side to the other because of the flow, they will have additional visibility. So we are able to capture revenues on that. So, and it doesn't mean that you are able to do this once and stop it. So you need to do A/B testing. Some of things will work, some of things will not work, but you are able to monitor that. So as you know, how many people have, or carts and trolleys have been into one position and another, you are able to capture the conversion rate, the transaction conversion rate. And based on that, you'll see, okay, this store layout is not working, we should try another thing. So you can capture this. Then we have small format stores where efficiency is very important. We are always and ever more reducing the footprint of the stores, but we also have large stores. And on those large stores, we can do more things. So there are different missions, people that are filling up, people that are doing some urgent purchasing. And on large stores, we are able to influence much more the path of the client in order to increase business revenue. On a small format, it's not easy as much because typically the client goes everywhere on a small format, okay? But we need to capture this data. So one of the things that we have currently is a complaint from not only clients that the temperature of the environment of those stores is not adequate, but we do not know if this makes sense or not. So what we need to understand, and we have compiled this information. I can share with you that we have 500 or 600 complaints per year about this, but we do not know if this makes sense or not. So if we do not have data, we cannot see if we have to take some actions to change the environment of the store. So based on the technology that we're talking about, monitoring carts and trolleys, we are able not only to track the movement, but also the temperature on those locations. So this can give us the ability to draw conclusions, okay? Also, this is a bit of the same. So what can we do this? So retailers typically in all industries try to increase the business revenue. So on our case is the transaction conversion rate. So we use technology and try to use technology in order to increase the transaction conversion rate. Also, but for that, we need to understand the journeys and try to induce a different path in order for the clients to have a better experience in store also, but also to induce those paths in order to sell more some products and less other products. For instance, we have also our own brand products, and we might want to promote those products more or less than the competition ones. Okay, how can this technology give us information? So on the left side, you'll see, for instance, on the vertical side, imagine it is cross-selling or correlation between, imagine water or milk or bread with all the categories that exist. So you see a lot of green ones because typically people that go into the bread part will also purchase something else. On the right side, what you'll see is something different. You'll see that some products are more related to other ones. So people that will purchase, I don't know, something else. So diapers, for instance. What are they also interested on? Okay? So you have the ability to correlate the path of the client into other categories and to see if there is possibly some cross-selling on that. So now, there are some challenges additional to the 3 ones that we have presented here, and also one use case that was not solved based on technology. So one of those is injury prevention. So on warehouses, on DC environments, workers carry out products that are quite, they have a lot of weight, and we have done some pilots in order to monitor if they are picking up the goods correctly. So if they are having the right postures, taking the products in order to avoid injury. So if you have an idea on that, how can we monitor if the workers are working correctly? Please contact us on the email address that is on the last slide. One example that we thought it was good to solve through technology that was not solved through technology was we have chef boxes, which is those green ones that are there. We are able to close them, and they are not purchased. So they are, let's say, rented. And and we have a very, very large number of those chef boxes, and they disappear. So they are quite handy to present products, and we did not know how come they disappear. So we thought about implementing a pilot to understand on a small sample of chef boxes if they were lost on warehouses, if they were lost on stores, if they were lost on the logistics parts. And we were trying to put a pilot on that based on technology, based on Sigfox devices that were capturing the data on a small footprint of chef boxes. And it was quite easy to solve it. So what we decided to do is, if there is one missing chef boxes, the store will pay for it. The problem is solved. So no more missing chef boxes. Okay, 0 technology. Okay, so traceability of goods that are perishables. So if you have ideas on that, loss prevention. Also, how can we monitor on the checkout process if we have returns? Imagine upon a return, it's expected to have a client on the other side of the balcony. So if there is a transaction for that, and there is no client for a certain period on that particular timestamp, we should be aware and should rank up those checkout operators in terms of risk. So this is also a use case. Out-of-stock detection. We are analyzing this on different ways. It's a thing that we are studying for quite some time. Typically, there are many technologies it's not a technology problem, it's a scalability and investment problem. So if you have ideas to auto-detect the out of stock with a very friendly investment, please send us an email. Okay? Storage maps, so basically what we have talked about. And if there is one main takeaway, is you are seeing some use cases here. Always think first on use case, then there is a bunch of technologies to reach that use case. But if the business case is not there, please do not spare your time on technology, okay? Thank you.